This double bass is a Hawks & Son Panormo model from 1922, so it's just under 100 years old. So Hawks & Son was a company that mostly sold brass band equipment and also sheet music, and they date back to the sort of middle 1800s, and they sort of progressed, and eventually when the double bass was a really important part of, say, a military band or a brass band or something like that, they started to sell them. So they copied a double bass by Vincenzo Panormo. So the very first ones were made in probably about 1895 in England, and there's very, very few of those. But quite soon after that, they sort of moved the production to Mark and you see the odd one from Mycor, but they're mostly from sort of Rubner, people like that. And what they did was they got those instruments produced in exactly the same pattern that they did. They have these sort of, some of the concerts and the Professor models, which are the sort of models down from this, have the sort of slightly French-looking tuners, although they were made in Germany. And the Panormo models had these lovely sort of Baker copy machine heads, but we'll look at those in a minute. So they basically copied the Vincenzo Panormo model, which was obviously at the time in sort of like 1900, would have been probably really sought after bass. So they obviously took that and copied it, and they really sort of copied it pretty much exactly. Obviously, there's very slight stylistic differences. I mean, the sound holes on these are sort of a little bit, a bit more of a take on the Stradivarian sound hole of Vincenzo Panormo, but basically that was the inspiration, and they were actually made in quite large numbers. So when you have the concert model, it's basically exactly the same as this, only with outside liners and without the English sort of Baker machine heads. Then you have the Professor model, which is basically exactly the same as this, only with outside liners and a flat back. And so they basically made three different models of the same outline, basically, and they were super popular. And since English basses, sort of like Kennedy, Panormo lot, have increased in price massively and are really scarce on the market, these Hawks & Son basses have really become the next thing. They really are considered now top quality sort of English basses, and the one thing I would say is you do find quite often they were used in military bands. So we've got a great picture of a bandsman who was obviously on tour, probably in India or somewhere like that. And you can see the bass is held together with clamps on the side where the weathers just was, so against it. But so quite often you find them and they're a bit in bad condition. However, this one is glorious. It's absolutely beautiful. Really amazing original condition, barely a mark on it, beautiful bits of wear, absolutely stunning. And you can see as well here the characteristic H on the back. So that H you only find on the Panormo models. So that's a sort of a detailing that's kind of exclusive to that. And some of them were pegged as well to usually that would indicate that it went for export, I would say. So another interesting little detail on this one, the back of the scroll here, this really tells me that this bass would have probably been made by Rubner. And I would say it's probably just from the time when Otto Rubner would have been taking over the production in the family factory. And there's a couple of things that's quite interesting about this bass actually. So I would say probably the most interesting thing is this shape of the scroll. So normally they're quite a stubby scroll, and they don't have this bit of detailing here, and they're a bit wider. This one's obviously got quite a long peg box, so we decided to make it into a 5-string bass. The other thing that was quite unusual about this is the body stop's quite short. So actually, quite often it can be a bit long, so you end up with it, the shoulder kind of ends up being a bit more tricky to play, etc. But this one sort of lends itself really well to being a 5-string bass. We've done big overstand, high bridge, so bowing even with a German bow, super easy on this bass. And it sounds like a bomb. It's got huge sound. Really easy to play, you know, all the notes will be in the right place. It's absolutely lovely. You know, I think if you are looking for 5-string bass, you really, you know, this is a serious orchestral animal. And as I say, the condition is absolutely first class, because quite often these basses can be a bit knackered. And yeah, absolutely beautiful, really lovely, glowing, sort of orangey brown varnish, beautiful, original condition. Also, we obviously when you convert a bass to 5 strings, when it was 4 and it's got plates, you need to probably, in most cases, replace the plates. So we've got the original plates that come with the bass. But when we made new ones, which obviously we've antiqued in, we kind of even got them engraved with a little Hawks and Son logo, which is quite fun. And yeah, and you can see we've also, so these 4 are the original machine heads, and we've added one in there which we've antiqued and everything. So it looks really cool, really lovely bass, and sounds like a dream. Perfect for orchestra.